Dive into the behind-the-scenes world of your favorite artists' interviews with us, Shannon Burns, producer Jess, and the entire iHeartRadio team on The Filter Podcast. Grab your headphones. New episodes land every week wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Encore.
Cool.
The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Miles Galloway.
Yes, back once again, podcasting on my own. I'm Miles Galloway, and this is the story of Robyn's Dancing on My Own. So, how many pop songs can you name that are universally adored? I mean, a song that everyone loves, and there isn't one person you know of that doesn't like it. There aren't many, are there? I think I can name one, though. Dancing on My Own by Robyn. In case you're unfamiliar with it, the 2010 banger was widely acclaimed by critics, but not so much by the public. In fact, the only country it reached number one in was Sweden, Robyn's homeland. But man, if you can name a song from this millennium that has encapsulated pop music better than Dancing on My Own, well, I wouldn't believe you. It is as perfect as pop songs get, and yet the story behind it is just as good as the song. It's a multi-faceted narrative that would make a great movie one day. A real underdog comeback story about a young girl who becomes world famous as a teenager, then chooses to give up everything when she realizes she's viewed as a commodity, only to do it all over again on her own terms and become an archetype for so many artists out there who value making art and having full control over their careers. I don't know about you, but I would watch that movie. Robyn Miriam Karlsson was born in Stockholm, Sweden on June 12, 1979. Her parents, Maria Eriksson and Willem Karlsson, were part of an avant-garde theatre troupe called Scheherazade. I thought that was a Pokemon. Scheherazade tested the conventionality of society in general. From the age of 6 months until 7 years old, Robyn travelled with her parents across Europe as they performed, between 3 and 6 months out of the year. She would tell The Guardian, "My role models were my parents, who had an independent theatre group. I watched them perform, but also do their own bookkeeping. When I was 23 or 24, I connected the dots between that and the music business." Robyn told Much Music's Master T about her upbringing in 1997.
I've been very lucky in the sense that I've had a very nurturing and just grounded home, and my family's just very simple, and they're not, trying to be anything they're not. They're just... I grew up in a theater family, so acting and singing and playing music was very natural from the beginning. It was just all in my environment all the time. So everybody that I know and most of my friends, they're just used to having those kind of people around them. So I've never had friends that look up to me because I became famous or blah, blah, blah. So that's good. So I kept my feet on the ground, have a good family, a good management, people that I care for and they care for me.
From a young age, Robyn showed an interest in music, listening to classic American soul, Jimi Hendrix, and David Bowie from her parents' collection. Sadly, Robyn's parents divorced when she was 11, which inspired her to write her first ever song, In My Heart. Oh, unlike most 11-year-olds, the song would kickstart her music career.
You started singing at what, age 10, was it?
I was always singing.
You were always singing?
Always singing, but I started to write when I was 11.
Okay.
So that's when it got more serious to me.
More serious?
Yeah.
Why did you start singing? Was it just
It was just something I did. Something I just loved to do. It made me happy. It still makes me happy every time I sing.
Makes you happy? So you don't consider it a job right now?
No, it's not a job. It's not, this to me is something bigger than just a job and being a part of a record business or, a record label. It's not about that. It's not about fame or money. It's about completing yourself and, doing what you're supposed to do.
Fantastic.
That you're meant to do.
That's what it should be.
Robyn was quick to get into showbiz, providing voiceovers for cartoons and getting small acting gigs. But it was music that would become her passion and profession. Robyn performed the song on a Swedish kids show called Sångdag Soppetoise. That same year, she was invited to sing You Can Always Be Number One, the theme song for a Swedish sports television show called Lilla Sportspegeln, which goes a little something like this. At the age of 13, though, was when Robyn would get her big break. One day at school, the Swedish singer Meha from a group called Legacy of Sound made an appearance for a school assembly. Afterwards, Robyn went up to her and began singing In My Heart. Meha was so impressed by what she heard from the young voice that she arranged a meeting with Robyn's parents, which led to a record deal with Sweden's Ricochet Records, an affiliate of BMG. Switching the spelling of her name from Robyn with an I to Robyn with a Y, I can relate, she released her debut single, You've Got That Something, in 1995. While it would reach the top 40 in Sweden, the song wasn't a hit. Luckily for Robyn, her next single, Do You Really Want Me? Show Respect, was in Scandinavia. The song reached number 2 in Sweden and went top 20 in Denmark, Iceland, Norway, and Sweden. Not bad for a 16-year-old, but much bigger things were yet to come. Robyn released her debut album, Robyn Is Here, in October 1995. At first, it was only available in Sweden, Japan, and parts of Asia and Latin America. The album would go double platinum in Sweden and immediately showcase Robyn as one of the country's bright young stars. Unlike a lot of singers her age, Robyn co-wrote all of the songs on the album and recorded a few tracks with producer Christian Falk, who would go on to become one of her regular collaborators for years to come. One other producer she worked with was a pre-fame Max Martin, who at the time was also set to work with an up-and-coming boy band by the name of Backstreet Boys. But first, he would produce 2 songs for Robyn, Do You Know What It Takes and Show Me Love. Robyn Is Here was released through RCA Sony in North America on June 24th, 1997, and almost overnight, Robyn became one of the hottest young stars in music. The album would go platinum in the US and double platinum in Canada. Both the Max Martin-produced singles Do You Know What It Takes and Show Me Love reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 2 on the Canadian singles chart. She would tell Much Music,
I didn't understand how successful the album actually was until I came here now the second time. And I'm really amazed. I'm really happy over, how people are really welcoming me, really warm feelings and good attitude. So I'm really happy to be here.
All right, cool.
While there was some confusion between Robyn and dance artist Robyn S, both having hits called Show Me Love, Robyn found her music charting across a number of genres, pop, dance, and R&B, allowing her to represent a new style of crossover music she was at the forefront of in Sweden.
Because where I come from is a different generation, it's a whole new era of music and also of the people that live in Stockholm, for example. We have a lot of immigrants, a lot of people from Africa. So I have friends from all over, and how I grew up is totally different from, and the music I listen to is totally different from Ace of Base and ABBA and Roxette, everything that people have seen coming out from Sweden lately. So I think there's going to be a lot of new music styles coming out from Stockholm. Definitely.
Fantastic.
And, that's where I come from.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't really understand that. But there's a whole new R&B and hip-hop kind of thing going on in Sweden right now.
Robyn spent the better part of 1997 traveling all over the world, though she did turn down an invitation to open for Backstreet Boys on their tour, feeling it was too much of an artistic compromise. She did, however, take home the Billboard Music Award for Best New Artist Clip Dance for Do You Know What It Takes, and her song Show Me Love was used as the English title for director Lucas Moodysson's teenage romantic dramedy Fucking All Mall. The song was also featured in the film's closing credits. Everything seemed to be going right for Robyn, but she would soon find out that the music industry was ready to challenge the kind of artist she wanted to be. Between the release of her debut and sophomore albums, Robyn had an abortion. Instead of hiding it, she decided to write about the experience for her next album, My Truth, specifically on the songs Giving You Back and 88 Days. In the album's liner notes, she wrote, "Every song is about something I've been through that I think is important to talk about. I've tried to turn these experiences into inspiring songs about my life." In an interview with Swedish men's magazine Cafe, Robyn revealed the abortion, admitting, "I had no right to take a life, but I had the opportunity to choose, so I did it and felt awful." Oddly enough, when Billboard reported on the album in its June 19th issue, it claimed Robyn had suffered a miscarriage. The R&B heavy album was released in Sweden on May 17th, 1999, and went on to go platinum in her home country. Despite positive reviews by critics, when it came time to release it elsewhere, Robyn hit a wall. Her American label RCA refused to release the album, giving Robyn the choice to either re-record the songs, removing any reference to her termination, or get dropped. So Robyn walked away from her record deal. Years later, Robyn would tell the New York Times, "You can't really talk about stuff like that in America, or you couldn't at the time, not if you were an 18-year-old pop star." To this day, My Truth has not received an official release outside of Europe. Disillusioned by her label BMG, Robyn left and signed with Jive, hoping to get a fresh new start, only to learn that BMG would soon take over Jive as she was working on her third album. Robyn would tell Much More Music's Matt Wells about her label woes.
Of course, I felt like I had done a great album, and I felt like I was making a logical, a step in the right direction for me as an artist, and they didn't want to support that. But at the same time, they didn't want to let me go, so I was stuck in this contract for years, and I spent a lot of money and a lot of time getting out of that contract, and then eventually signed with Jive Records, and I tried to make an album where I was pleasing everyone, like writing good songs and doing what I wanted to do, but still it was produced and especially marketed in a very major record company kind of way. And that's really like around the time when I felt like I was heading in the wrong direction. And also the whole industry was changing. People were fired. New people came in that didn't really know anything about me as an artist. And Jive was being bought by BMG, which was my first label. So I was back at BMG, and it was just a big mess. And I just felt like I'm in the wrong place.
Robyn released her third album, Don't Stop the Music, on October 30th, 2002. Again, the album would only see a release in Sweden, where it was a success, going platinum with 2 top 10 hits, and Japan the following year. It wouldn't be until 2019 where the rest of the world would get to hear Don't Stop the Music. Distraught over the pressure she felt to sound more like Britney Spears or Christina Aguilera, Robyn purchased her contract from BMG and became an independent artist.
I think, again, it wasn't a conscious decision. It was just something I felt like I had to do to keep my integrity and to feel good about myself. I went back to Sweden and I kept recording albums and releasing them. But of course, they sounded different than the first one, and my record label at the time thought I was just crazy for not doing what all these other girls were doing then, and Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all that, because they were having so much success, and of course they wanted me to do that,
Right.
Which I understand. It's not weird. That's their job, to be a record company and to sell albums. But for me, it was about something else. It was about like a more long-term perspective.
In 2003, Robyn was sent an album called Deep Cuts by a Swedish duo named The Knife. She loved their dark yet melodic electronic sound and collaborated with them on a song called Who's That Girl? Her label didn't get it and refused to release it, so Robyn walked. She would tell the New York Times, "I made this music that I really love, and it's something different than I've done before. And you don't like it? Like, how are we going to work together? It's impossible." After years of butting heads with record labels and fighting for artistic control, Robyn was finally able to take her career by the reins. She began by starting her own record label called Konichiwa Records, which allowed her to become her own boss and call her own shots.
I mean, I'm right where I want to be, and I don't think I would have been ready to do this before either.
Right.
I see those first 3 albums as my school, my way of getting to know the industry, but also myself. And without them, I wouldn't know what I know now, and I don't feel like I have to distance myself from any part of my career, or have everyone know who I am either,
When it came to renaming her new record label, Robyn lifted the word Konichiwa from a 2004 sketch that aired on Chappelle's Show featuring Wu-Tang Clan's Jizza and RZA.
Konichiwa, bitches. Folks, thanks for joining us on this incredible night. Our coverage ends here, but be sure to catch the rest on our website. Congratulations to all of the races, and Konichiwa, bitches.
She told Much More Music's Matt Wells that the label was a way of her releasing her own music without anyone interfering with her vision.
Well, Konichiwa Records was started in 2005. It was started out of my kitchen. It was me and 3 other people who I worked with earlier in the Swedish music industry that I really liked and that I wanted to work with again. And I recorded this album and we released it together there. And around that time, I had really gotten rid of all the ideas of having an international career again. I just wanted to make this album and release it and do things on my own terms. And Konichiwa Records was started so I could do that.
For her album, Robyn wanted to make music that fell in between the commercial music she was known for early in her career and the far less commercial music she listened to that didn't reach many people. Now in charge, she chose who to work with, bringing in producers such as the Teddy Bears and the Knife. She called the album Robyn as a clean slate to reboot her career. Mixing pop, dance, electro, and hip-hop, Robyn expanded her repertoire to fit her own tastes. She would tell Blues and Soul magazine that for her, hip-hop played a big role in her songwriting. I think the biggest lyrical inspiration for this album was going back to when I was like 15 and on the subway listening to hip-hop back then, because I didn't know many people in Sweden who knew about rap. It was like my own music world, where the lyrics were very direct. So I tried to return to that age when you're so strong and self-confident, while acknowledging there's also a part of being a teenager when you're sometimes very insecure and feel very fragile. The album was released on April 27th, 2005, but only in Sweden and Norway. It would become Robyn's first album to top the Swedish charts and win Album of the Year at the Swedish Grammys. It spawned the hit Be Mine, but aside from music bloggers around the world taking an interest in her new music, the album stayed in Scandinavia. But then, a funny thing happened. Robyn was introduced to a producer named Clearup, who was playing drums with the Teddy Bears. After a gig one night in Stockholm, he and his bandmates got into a street brawl with some paparazzi who had yelled obscenities at Robyn. After one guy bopped Clearup in the nose, he began to bleed heavily and ran back to the venue where he and Robyn would first meet, with tissue hanging out of his bloodied nose. Shortly after, the two began working on a song together, inspired by disco legend Giorgio Moroder and ZZ Top's song Legs. That song would become With Every Heartbeat, which upon its release in January 2007, changed everything for Robyn. The song caught fire in the UK, where it would eventually land Robyn her first ever #1 on the singles chart. All of a sudden, there was renewed interest in her music outside of Sweden. Her self-titled album was repackaged and released through a licensing deal with Island Records in the UK, followed by Interscope in North America. New tracks were added, like With Every Heartbeat, as well as Dream On, another collaboration she recorded with producer Christian Falk, who'd previously worked on Robyn's first 2 albums. Suddenly, Robyn had re-emerged on people's radars. Her songs were reaching the top 10 on US dance charts, and she even received a Grammy nomination for Best Electronic Dance Album. Speaking with Acclaim, Robyn explained that although her music was now reaching more people, it wouldn't change anything about how she operated as an artist. All records are me, but this is the first record I've made all by myself, which is a big difference. So I've been able to kind of build something. I had a good start, and then I built on that. I was lucky enough to still have a very strong base in Sweden, and that enabled me to translate my career into something difficult and new for me. I don't need to release a record anywhere else to survive. I can just do it to feel good. Still, Robyn didn't shy away from returning to the mainstream pop world that first gave her a career. In 2007, she was asked to sing backing vocals for a Britney Spears song called Piece of Me. Much More Music's Matt Wells asked Robyn about her contribution.
What happened? That's also one of those things, I didn't meet her or anything. We didn't really work together. But Claes Åhlund, who I write with and who is a part of the Teddy Bears and who I work with all the time, he wrote this song for her. And he asked me if I could demo it. So I just kind of did it as a favor for a friend, and they kept the backing vocals on there.
Robyn would end 2008 opening for Madonna on the European leg of her Sticky and Sweet tour, playing to her biggest audiences ever and preparing her for what would come next. By the end of 2009, Robyn's romance with MMA fighter Olof Inger was falling apart. The couple were engaged, but their relationship was coming to an end. At the time, she was in the studio with producer and close collaborator Claes Åhlund. The two began working on sad love songs, with a lot of inspiration coming from Robyn's rediscovery of dance club culture. And yet, it was while she went off on her own, fiddling with some ideas, that she came up with a chorus that wouldn't leave her. She decided to bring in Patrick Berger to help her bring it to life. At first, the song had an acoustic vibe, Berger would tell Billboard. In the beginning, it was more of a country song almost. It was very simple. It had like 3 chords. The process was meticulous, but soon it began to take shape, adding pounding dance beats and rippling synthesizers to help change its course. Robyn broke it down in a conversation with the Red Bull Music Academy.
And I think I'd been touring with the first album for a long time, and I'd been marinating on this kind of language for a while, and Dancing on My Own kind of came out of that, I think. And so I had this idea that I brought with me to the studio with Patrik Berger, who I wrote Dancing on My Own with, and we started playing around with chords and synthesizers, and it all just kind of happened. I don't know how to explain it. It's close to magic sometimes when that hits you.
Robyn and Berger used a number of key tracks they loved as a mood board for the song, including Billy Idol's Dancing With Myself, Ultravox's Dancing With Tears in My Eyes, and various songs by Sylvester, Donna Summer, and Giorgio Moroder. The mix of melancholy lyrics with upbeat tempos in those songs provided a light bulb moment for what they were trying to create. In an interview with Pitchfork, Robyn explained, "I've been touring so much the last 3 years and spent a lot of time in clubs just watching people, and it's become impossible to not use that lyric, Dancing on My Own, because it's such a beautiful picture. People have so many expectations when they go out, so many wishes about what their night is going to be. If they're going to meet that person, have a fun time with their friends, have a good high, hear good music. People get drunk and turn into themselves in a way, and they go to experience some kind of emotion. But it's not always about fun. There's a destructive side to it. But I'm more into the empowerment of going out because it's always been the place where I could be myself and get inspired. Even if I'm sad, dancing is a way to let stuff out." Combining her love for Prince songs, 80s rock ballads, and queer electronica, the two came up with Dancing on My Own, a title Robyn had been holding on to for some time. She would explain the importance of balancing emotions in her songs as a way to keep things interesting.
Well, I think I'm always going to be obsessed by that, contrast between happy and sad. And for me, Dancing on My Own is of course a song about love, sickness, but it's also about, this girl taking care of herself and making, letting her feelings off. She's quite dramatic. She's not like a victim. She's going out there and facing her situation and stuff. So it's both, just like with Every Heartbeat, it's both.
Released on April 20th, 2010, Robyn's Dancing on My Own, like many of her singles before it, became a hit in Sweden, reaching #1 on the charts. Her growing fan base fell in love with it. Critics praised it, hailing it as a Europop masterpiece. But once again, the song didn't become the breakthrough commercial hit many people expected it to become. In many ways, though, it became something bigger. Dancing on My Own was the lead single for Robyn's 5th album, Body Talk, an album that at first was released in 3 parts and later combined as a compilation album. The music video helped spread the word, featuring Robyn dancing on her own and enacting the lyrics with a bunch of sweaty bodies in a club. Choreographer Maria Decida Wahlberg told Billboard, Robyn based her dance moves on the movements actress Rosie Perez made in Spike Lee's film Do the Right Thing. There was a lot of angry energy. She was like the spirit animal of the Body Talk album, and you can spot that in the video. Over the years, Dancing on My Own has never really left pop culture. The song has been adopted by the 2S LGBTQ+ community, which has made Robyn a gay icon not only for her support, but for the music she makes. Vice published an appreciation for the song under the title Robyn's Dancing on My Own is still an undeniable queer banger. Robyn would explain her relationship to her gay fans in an interview with Frontiers magazine. "I think the gay community just gets me. I'm very lucky to have that audience. It's a very loyal and dedicated audience. I think a big part of my audience is gay because I make dance music and club music, and that culture came out of gay culture, but also because having an understanding of outsider culture has always been in my music." The song has been featured on many TV shows, including Gossip Girl, Grey's Anatomy, and Orange is the New Black, but it had its biggest moment on television when it was used in a cathartic scene of the HBO series Girls, featuring Lena Dunham and Alison Williams. Dunham would tell BBC Newsbeat that hearing the song made the whole crew dance and cry off camera, adding, "You could feel the power and love that went into the song." When Dunham won a Golden Globe for her performance in 2013, Dancing on My Own was played as she walked up to accept it. Dancing on My Own also became a favourite amongst many of Robyn's peers. Carly Rae Jepsen, who knows a thing or two about making great pop music, is a massive Robyn fan, especially when it comes to Dancing on My Own. She told Pitchfork, it's this little world that she's tapped into, and no one else can really do it. It's a fantastical place and empowering, and it makes you feel like tonight is the only night that ever was or ever will be. The song's been covered by big names like Kings of Leon and Kelly Clarkson, but it was British singer Callum Scott who made the song his own when he sang it during his audition for Britain's Got Talent. His performance of the song currently has more than 300 million views than Robyn's video and helped him get a record deal. His first single, a heart-wrenchingly stripped-down cover of Robyn's Dancing on My Own. Scott said he owes his career to Robyn. Of course, in true Robyn fashion, her version of Dancing on My Own, the original version, has hundreds of millions of fewer views on YouTube and almost 1 billion fewer streams on Spotify than Callum Scott's cover. But that's just become part of Robyn's story. She's the original. She's the trailblazer. She's the artist. And she's the one who gave us this perfect song. I'm Miles Galloway, and that was the story of Robyn's Dancing on My Own on Encore, with new episodes every Thursday.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.